There's a few key portions of that that I want to touch on. We're trying to assist a user, we're trying to assist somebody in efficiently completing an action. They have something that they want to do, and our voice application should help them do that as quickly and with as little effort as possible. Before you even start building for voice, you should start with a question, which is, should I be building for voice at all? We're in the phase that I like to call the plumbers with Facebook pages phase, where everyone feels like they maybe need to be on these platforms, but that's not necessarily the case. What works best for voice are those that are with a very narrow domain. So Alexa, Google Assistant, those work well with a large domain because there's hundreds of developers, tons of money behind it. If you're building a skill or an app with just yourself or just with a small team, it's very difficult to work with a large domain. It makes it more difficult for the user to understand what they can do, and more difficult for you to really handle everything that the user might want to do. Repetitive tasks work really well also. Things like ordering a pizza if you've already ordered that kind of pizza before, or asking for the weather, or ordering a car on Uber when they already have your credit card number. If there's a lot of information that needs to be passed back and forth, that may be better suited to mobile or to web, because it's difficult sometimes to pass that information back and forth, even between humans. And then finally, action-oriented. Amazon last year came out with the Alexa Prize, where there were college teams trying to get people to have conversations with Alexa. And they did pretty impressively. I think the winner got people to communicate, to chat with Alexa on an average of 12 minutes each time, which is quite impressive, but most of the things that we're going to be building for voice are, I want to do this, help me do this. Conversations are all about agents with a purpose. It's all about two agents passing information back and forth to achieve something. Now this could be, I'm here, you're selling me a ticket to a movie, that's the purpose. Or it could be, we're just trying to connect with each other, that's the purpose as well. But when it comes down to it is, we are passing information back and forth to achieve this goal. This works not just person to person, but also user to computer as well. You also want to choose which platform your voice experience is going to be on. There's three main types. There's the voice only, the voice first, and the voice added. Voice only is exactly what it sounds like. It's only voice. These are things like the Google Home, the Amazon Echo. There is no screen, there's no input or output, but the voice. Then there's voice first. These are things like the Echo Show, or maybe even smart TVs, where you're primarily interacting with voice, but there's also another output or even perhaps another input. And then there's voice added. This is more on the mobile side or even on desktop computers, less commonly. That's where you can interact with voice and it adds something to the experience, but you have that fallback of the screen or the keyboard if you need to input longer bits of information. So where can our users go inside these voice experiences? So I grew up in small town Texas and I moved to Brooklyn, I think like 8 years ago. And at first I was really, really scared of buses because buses can go anywhere they want. Like subway, it's on a track, right? You know where that train's headed. But a bus, the bus driver can veer off, they can leave the city, and the next thing you know, you're in Connecticut, right? And it's a little bit the same way with web or mobile versus voice. If you have a user who's filling out a form on a website, they can only go essentially where you're telling them to go, where the links on that page are sending them. So you know, okay, they're here, and they can go here, here, or here. But with voice, it's like a bus, right? Like it can go anywhere at once. More or less, right? As we'll see, conversations actually constrain the people within it. We have this couple here. The man says, "Oh, we should eat soon." It makes sense for his wife to say, "Okay, let's get pizza. I'm not hungry," or "But it's only 2 p.m. Why are we going to eat?" It makes a lot less sense for her to say, "Blue is my favorite color." It doesn't make sense within this context. And so what we need to take away is that we can actually lead the user so that we can predict what they're going to do. The most constraining way to lead the user is just with yes or no questions. Do you want to transfer 1,000 euros? Yes or no? The thing to be careful about is stealth yes or no questions. Do you want to transfer 1,000 euros or check your balance? This seems pretty easy, right? Yeah, I'll transfer 1,000 euros, or yeah, I'll check my balance. But yes in this case could mean I want to do one of those two. No can mean I don't want to do either of those two. And so it's difficult for the user to know, hey, what exactly can I do here? And it's difficult for you to figure out what does the user mean when they say yes. User training relies on the fact that within a conversation, people tend to respond in kind. They tend to respond using the language that was just used. So for example, can you turn off the lights? And Alexa responds, okay, turning out the lights. Can you turn off the lights? Turning out the lights now. And then finally the user gets it. Can you turn out the lights? Sure thing, turning out the lights. This doesn't just work with the responses like this, but it can be proactive as well. Do you want me to turn out the lights? The reason why you would do something like this is perhaps you find that the speech-to-text, the recognizer, recognizes some phrases or words more than others. So maybe it doesn't really understand turn off the lights perfectly, just like it does with turn out the lights. So you train the user to use the phrase that's going to have the best chance for success. There's something called Grices Maxims. These are assumptions that we have, even if we don't know, in our conversations. It's also known as the cooperative principle. The first one is quantity. This says you respond with just enough to answer the question. Not more, not less. If somebody asks you, how was your day today? Or what did you do today? If you say not much, it's not enough information. It doesn't really say what I did today. On the other hand, we all have those people who just go on and on and on, and we want them to stop. This works with voice applications as well. The prime example is when you call in with your bank, and it's press A to do, or press 1 to do this, press 2 to do that, press 3. It's way too much information. But it can be more subtle as well. How many dollars is 60 euros? Saying 1 euro is $1.17 is not enough information. Saying it was this today and it was this yesterday, too much information. We want to just answer what the user asked for. The second one is quality. And this one says that whatever you say in response should be truthful. This one's a little subtle because we think, well, computers don't lie. But UIs do lie a lot. Here we're asking the user, do you want to transfer this money? And this implies to the user, you can transfer this money anywhere you want. But if our code does not handle that user saying transfer to my savings account, we have essentially lied to the user. The third one is relation. And this one says that whatever I say to you should be related to what you just said. Now, we sometimes flout or break these maxims. We might do it for humorous effect, but we always assume that they're in play. So if somebody asks, I wonder if layoffs are coming soon, and you go, isn't it sunny outside? It sure is warm in here. The assumption is that this is actually related to that I'm saying, yeah, there are layoffs, but I can't tell you. We're not assuming, oh, well, you just changed the topic. This one kills me. So I've got many devices at home, but Google Home is the one I use the most. And I'll say often, turn off the lamp. And one time out of 5, maybe one time out of 4 or 3, Google Home says, if you just asked to cancel an alarm, you actually have none set at the moment. I asked for the lamp. You're telling me something not related to that at all. And then the last one is Manor. Manor says that we speak in the same tone, in the same register that was called for by our conversational partner. This one is broken perhaps more than any other. And that's because people write out what the voice application, what the voice partner is going to say, and never read it out loud. And we have different ways where we write, the words, the phrases we use are different than when we speak. So for which currency did you want to transfer? Please repeat the inquiry versus, sorry, I don't understand. Can you say that again? What you want to do for this last one, for the manner, is speak this out loud. Speak with your coworkers, speak with your colleagues. This is useful sometimes even before you start to understand how users might interact. These assumptions allow us to have more efficient conversations, to complete those actions more efficiently. Another thing that where we can build in efficiency on the back of those assumptions is something called ellipsis. Here I'm saying the Astros are in first place, followed by this team, and this team. Because there's that maxim of relation, you are assuming that this is related to this. I don't need to say the Astros are in first place, the Rangers are in second place, and so on. You can leave out some information. Context is an important way for us to efficiently complete these actions. And this is really what takes voice applications from very pedestrian and not very useful to something that stands out. Context can mean a lot of things. It can be the location of the user. It can be their interest, even the time of day, or the recent discussions you just had. You have explicit and implicit context. Explicit is saying, I want to send my city. Implicit is, I want the weather for Paris. You're going to work most often with the implicit context. You don't want to force your user to say, okay, before we start, tell me all the things that you think I might need to know again. With implicit context, something I like to add for my voice applications is what I call decaying context. This is just like how we do it with face-to-face conversations. If I ask you for the weather in Paris and 10 minutes go by, my voice application can assume that you still want the weather in Paris. 35 minutes, an hour, 2 hours go by, and you ask again without specifying a city. Maybe I ask you again, hey, just to be sure, what city do you want? Confirmation is something that is incredibly important as well. We do this pretty well face-to-face. Hey, sorry, I didn't catch that. Can you repeat it? Speech-to-text will never be 100% correct. Right now, it's at about 95% correct, which means that 1 out of every 20, up to 1 out of every 10, you might have mistakes. And you want to let the user make corrections. There are certain different types of confirmations. There's explicit. I heard you say you wanted to turn out the bathroom light. Is that right? You want explicit confirmations when the action is really difficult to fix. If I'm transferring money, if I'm paying something, if I'm deleting an account, you better confirm and make sure I really want to do it. There's implicit confirmation. Okay, turning out the bathroom lights. I tell you that I'm about to do something. There's inferential, saying the bathroom light is now out. I did something. There's open. Okay, I got your response, and you're going to trust that I did it. And then there's none. Okay, maybe just the light is out now. So again, the higher the stakes, the more explicit you should be, but you shouldn't be explicit every single time. That defeats the purpose of being efficient. If you say, I heard you say this. Okay, I heard you say that. I heard you say that again. and confirming every single time. It's not necessary. Another way to be efficient is through progressive disclosure. Now, conversations are linear. You can only focus on what I'm saying at any given time. You can maybe think back to what I just said, but then you're not focusing, you're falling behind, and you can't jump ahead. The maximum quantity says that we say just the right amount. So we're going to give detailed information when it's necessary or when it's useful. One time that it's useful is for power users that are coming back repeatedly. Maybe I'm asking, hey, did the Astros win last night? Alexa tells me 3 times. And then the third time, Alexa says, by the way, you can also ask for the next game. I didn't need to know that at the very beginning because I'm still getting used to this response, to this relationship. But now that I'm a regular, yeah, go ahead and tell me. Let me know what else I can do. For correction, you want to start off pretty general because you don't know, did the text-to-speech or speech-to-text mess up, or did the user not understand what they should do? So start off general. Turn the lights red. Sorry, I don't think I can do that. What do you want to do? I want to turn the lights red. I'm having trouble. Do you want to color the lights? Here I'm starting to give a little bit more of a hint on what you can do. And then finally, oops, try this, color the light blue. Here I'm being very explicit. I'm telling you, this is exactly how you need to speak to me for me to understand. This would have been too much in the very beginning. There's this idea in conversations of something called dialogic pairs. And this is the idea that I ask you for something and you owe me something in return, right? You're going to close that pair. But sometimes there's not enough information, and we need to add what's called an insertion sequence, which is the back and forth in between those pairs. This happens in voice applications as well. What time does the next train leave? Which train? The G train. Which station? Court Square. The next G train leaves in 10 minutes. Only at this point is that dialogic pair completed. We've now received all of the information that we needed, and we can finally give that information back to the user. So you've seen the best practices. Now what's next? Here's some further information that I found very useful in my studies and my learning. But really what I recommend more than anything is speak out loud what your interaction is going to be, right? If you were doing a website, you wouldn't just build it and then not use it. You would actually click around, you would see if it works. With voice, it is necessary to go beyond just unit testing, but actually have that human interaction as well. What you find perhaps is, you might be asking in a different way. Maybe people don't understand how you respond. Doing all of that will build that voice UI that makes it a lot more efficient and in fact a lot more human as well. So thank you very much.
So is there any question? No questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.